So this is lesson 5.4, part 2. This, you want to start by finding the GCF, which is a c. So I have c, I'm going to factor out that. I have c squared plus 9c plus 18. This is what we call a general trinomial. That's the one where you set up two sets of parentheses and you find two numbers that multiply to get 18 and add to get 9. That happens to be 6 and 3, both positive. Bring down the c's. And that one's done. Now, for the rest of these, notice that you have an equal sign, which means you're able to actually solve for the variable. The rest of them you could only factor, you couldn't actually solve. This one we're going to solve, we're going to use factor by grouping again. The GCF for the first two terms is g squared. You're left with g plus 1. The second two terms, there's something missing here. Let me add a 3. Make that a 3. I guess I copied it wrong. Oh well. Okay. Negative 1 is the GCF for the second two. You're also left with g plus 3. G plus 3 is what they have in common now. G squared minus 1 is what is left over. And what you want to do is take each expression and set it equal to 0 and then solve for g. So I get g equals negative 3. G squared equals 1, which means that g equals plus or minus 1. The square root of 1 would be plus or minus 1. I'm going to move to this one. What I want to do is move that 18x to the third to the other side, so I'm going to subtract it from both sides. And that's what I get. I'm going to factor out a 3x. Bring down your 3x. Here we can factor it. That's x squared and x squared. 5, two numbers that multiply to get 5 and add to get negative 6 would be negative 5 and negative 1. I'm actually going to go ahead and set this all equal to 0. And like that. This one should be clearly a 0. Here, if I were to add 5, I would get x squared equals 5. And then the square root of 5, we don't really know. So you're going to leave it as plus or minus 5. This one is the same thing that I did right here with the g. So if you add 1 to both sides, you get x squared equals 1, which means x is a plus or minus 1. Last one, I have GCF. There's a problem. I have GCF of y squared. I'm going to factor out y squared. And I'm actually going to go ahead and set both of these equal to 0. So this first one means y equals 0. And the second one I would add 5, and I get y equals 5.